Are we live?
Bro.
Jerry, that is not your line.
Saw it.
I'm passing the torch. I'm passing the torch for one night.
Okay, whose is it?
One night.
And we're live.
Nice, bro.
Yeah. Initiation.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
R12 Nation.
Did you see Jude in the little door frame? Okay, guys.
Jude
If you haven't noticed yet, we have a fourth
person.
We have a new guy in the podcast,
We have a fourth
Oh,
member.
he's
of
a little
the
on the
podcast.
small side.
Yeah, we thought the table might be a little bit too big for him, actually.
Yeah.
But he seems to be filling it out pretty good. This is our good friend Cade Carney. For you guys that don't know, we grew up. Oh, Kirk, did you grow up with him? I know. Like,
No, I was too old.
Y'all are all over.
I grew up hearing of the legend of Cade Carney.
Yeah. There was a story, if you remember in football. I don't know if you remember the name Cooter Arnold.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he's a legend.
Cooter Arnold left.
That's a legend.
Cooter Arnold
He said,
right.
"No, that's a legend."
He went to UNC, but it was the same thing. I heard stories. Cade Carney left.
Yeah.
Cade Carney right.
Yeah.
sick.
But yeah.
No, but we grew up together. We played a lot of sports, mainly football. He went to Wake Forest and played football in college.
And here is Carney, and there's another touchdown for Wake Forest.
He's smart, he's tough, he's moral, he's a great leader, he's a great teammate. I think he's a guy that the offensive linemen like to block for. He's a 2-year captain. You say this is what I want a Wake Forest football player to be. Cade Carney certainly fills that bill.
I've always been a downhill guy that some would say seeks contact. I think my instinct is to challenge a guy physically before I try to outrun him, but I've obviously worked on becoming more and more dynamic, and that's something that it's not as natural to me, but I see that it's worked, in the past, and especially as I've developed in my second and third year as a running back in this league.
There's Carney spinning off a tackler, showing his muscles and scoring for the Deacs.
I guess words to describe him: you're a husband, you're a brother, you're a son. Most importantly, you're a child of God. Football player. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that you would say about yourself, but we're happy you're on here, bro.
Washed up.
Nah, you ain't washed up. Look at your biceps, bro. You're not washed up.
Man, I'm pumped for tonight.
Oh, man.
Like I've always known who you are, Cade, but I've never I've talked to you here and there, but never really got to know you. And that's what we love about doing this is having people on and really having just get to know who you are, what makes you tick, some of the stuff you've been through, experiences, trials in life, things that have, brought you growth, and hopefully just everybody get to know you better.
Yeah. Before we start, thank you guys so much for having me on. You guys talk about me playing sports. I grew up watching both of you guys. Y'all are the legends.
Yeah.
Y'all are the ones that I watched growing up.
Bro.
So thank you for letting me be out here and have the chance to come out. And
We're excited, bro.
I've been an R12 Nation.
Come on, man.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
If he can do it, you can do it.
If you can survive getting through that door with Ruger guarding this house,
right.
you're ready, man.
A little. So, Cade's older brother Salem is my age. What do you?
Older sister.
That's a sister.
Oh,
Yeah.
my older sister. Sorry, Cade's older sister Salem is my age. How old are you right now?
So I'm 26.
He's 26. Salem's 29.
Yep.
Yeah, so we were the same age. So that's how I kind of knew Cade. But and you have a brother right now that goes to Wake Forest, Tate, and you have another sister, Ivy.
Yep. So 1 of 4. Salem's the oldest. She lives out in Murrells Inlet. You
And
guys
she's your
grew up
sister,
together.
not your brother.
She's my sister.
Okay, sister. Come on now.
My next sister, Ivy. She grew up, I guess, between you and I.
Yeah.
And then Tate is a redshirt freshman at Wake Forest, playing football out there. He plays running back. And then myself. So 1 of 4.
Bro, I have to tell the story about his family. So I grew when I was younger. I would go over to y'all's house, not a lot, but so his dad, his name's Carl, and the first time I went over there, I was in 6th grade. Me and Salem were doing some project or something. We were in 6th grade together. I met Cade, I met Tate, I met Ivy, and when I'm over there, I shook Carl's hand, and bro, at that time I was small, obviously, but I have tiny hands. Carl's hands are like this. It's like a freaking huge. Yeah. So he shook my hand and then he grabbed my neck from the back and was just shaking me. And I was like, this right here, bro. I literally thought I might die.
To this day, it doesn't matter how old we get. Any of my friends that come hang around the house, Carl comes around, traps her up.
Traps her up.
Waiting for the grab.
Oh, man.
Traps her up and locked in. Be ready.
Known fact. Yeah, absolutely.
But tell the guy or tell the viewers, if there's any viewers, what are you up to now? What are you doing now?
Yeah, so graduated school from Wake Forest in 2019 was my last season in school. started working. Construction's our family line of work. So went and worked for another contractor out in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Lived there and worked there for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, before Victoria and I got married. As soon as we got married, we moved down to Knoxville, started working with the family business on some construction projects we had out there. So kind of working my way through some of the stages of that, and we got to move home in the late spring this year. So working and living here in Advance now, awesome, so super excited to be back home. But yeah, working.
You haven't been back here very long though, right?
Yeah, we moved back. It's kind of a slow transition. We thought it might be February, ended up being like April, May. So bought us a little house in Advance and settling down.
Hey, back home now.
That's right.
We were talking about, so you were in Knoxville for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was just him and Victoria. So we were talking about how it's kind of, or we didn't even talk about this, but it's kind of similar to our stories, because whenever me and Caroline go, we're away from home, but we're always coming back home. And we were just talking about how we love Davie. Yeah. We love just like the family unity we have in Davie with all of our friends.
Yeah. No place like home, I think.
No, bro.
We can agree on that.
Yeah.
It was awesome for us. Like I said, we got married. I quit my job in Charlotte and started working for our family business. And a week later, was told Knoxville it is for the next little while. So went and built out a couple projects out there. But it was so new for us because she grew up in Burlington, North Carolina, out by Elon University. I grew up in Advance. Right. Went to school 20 minutes down the road. So never quite left home. Never didn't have a dinner on a Friday night with the family or whatever it was. And so it was a little bit bitter going out to a new place, being the homebodies and knowing that we wanted to end up living back home. But the time that we had together was something I would never trade. Really gave us a chance to grow as a married couple.
Yeah, that's important, man.
Leaving in Cleveland, that was the kind of the theme of the last 2 years. And by the time we got down there and got settled in and got some routines, and like I said, we're relying on each other. We didn't have an event every week with the family or somebody calling us, one of the friends from back home. It was, we missed our people, but it was something special to have
grow together,
having that time together where, if she's mad at me, she doesn't have far to go in our little condo to get away from me. So it was really good.
I definitely want to talk about, so I want to start a little bit younger when you were younger, bro. So if you guys don't know Cade or don't remember Cade when we were growing up, he's going to be probably annoyed. This dude was a freak. Okay. Like, do you remember, Jacob, do you remember talking about, it was either on a podcast or in person, how some people just have this athleticism that you don't normally see?
Yeah. I mean,
you can see something and it's like, this dude's different.
Yeah.
I remember we were in, I was in high school. This is a different story. This is a different story. This is a different story. Different story. I came back to watch Heath play basketball, not football.
Wait, what grade is this? Would he? Because Heath were in the same grade, right?
He was a year behind.
He was a year behind you.
I was a junior in.
I
was a junior in high school.
By the way,
3-point assassin.
Just like his brother.
He was in 8th grade. So your main sport was football growing up, right?
Yeah, right.
You would say you're okay.
Sure.
He was playing basketball, bro, in the 8th grade, and dude took off on a fast break, middle of the lane, and he didn't dunk it, but he went up, let the ball go, and grabbed the rim.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this dude, bro?
Who is this guy?
So I guess all right, my question is when did you get into sports? When were you drawn to football more so than the rest? And how did that kind of start?
Yeah, so sports, obviously, that's kind of what our family is. Yeah. That's one of the main things that brings the family together. My dad played football at East Carolina. He was a defensive lineman, so that was obviously always what I wanted to be, like Dad, So started playing tackle football when I was 7. It was horrible. I think I played offensive line my first year. But anyway, football from the start. As young as I was able to play, as soon as I was able to get out there, wanted to play football. But I played basketball and baseball for several years there. You talk about a highlight of basketball. That is the biggest regret that I've got in my life is quitting baseball to play basketball.
Really?
No one told me that I would be a 5'11", built like a baseball guy, a whole lot more than a basketball player.
You were big in middle school.
Yeah, I was a little bit bigger than everybody. So I was I was 5'9", and a little bit tall on the tall side. A little bit more developed than a lot of the guys were in 8th grade. So I was kind of good at basketball, and man, no one told me that I was going to be done growing. Would have been a lot of an easier career choice to not have to go through some of the injuries to play second base or something, man. I mean, come on.
I see what you're saying.
No, yeah, ended up, I guess it was like middle school was the age where travel basketball kicked in, and it would go, until June or July.
There's only so much you can do, man.
So kind of had to make that decision. Chose basketball over baseball. Biggest regret. But no, ended up carrying on with basketball. I got to play my freshman year. I was on the Davie basketball team with
on the varsity team, right?
The Martins.
Yeah.
See, that's what I remember. That's what I remember pregame. I remember watching. I'm like, all right, I remember the Martin twins. Like,
So did you go to state championship real quick?
No,
Did you?
no, we didn't make it.
Okay.
We got upset in the first round.
Okay, sorry. That must have been the year
that was
before.
like-
I just remember pregame and like, I see Cade out there. I'm like, this dude can straight jump.
That's
Like, I mean, man can leap, and like, you're not lean. Like, okay, you're lean, but you're not like thin.
The bro's jacked.
Like, you're freaking built. You know,
I had to get it
you're
out
not.
sometime.
You're not supposed to jump like that.
I was the front row. I had front row seats to all those games. I was on the team, but I had a front row seat to watch these guys actually play
Get
basketball.
my jumps in pregame.
Yeah, I had to go hard in pregame.
No, but that's what I'm talking about. There was there's something about it that was different. And I think obviously we can get into your college career and everything like that, but it wasn't a surprise to anybody that you had success.
Yeah.
It wasn't a surprise to me.
But you see kids too, like in middle school or even high school sometimes, or even before that shine out of all the kids, but then kind of dwindle
Fade
down.
out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely was not the case.
I got a question for you though, because obviously a part of like success in sports, it's not just like a gifted ability. A lot of work goes into it.
100%.
Do you ever remember like in high school or primarily in high school, because that's where it really starts to get serious with like, extra
Recruiting,
practice, extra lifting, doing extra conditioning, taking your nutrition serious. Do you remember thinking like points in high school, like, man, is this really worth it? You know what I mean? Because like you're sacrificing a lot,
Is
like
this
of
gonna pay
like
off?
your social life. I'm sure there were times when you want to do something else. Where you're like, I got 6 a.m. weights tomorrow, or I got something tomorrow, some camp or whatever. Right? Were there ever any points where you're like, not regretting it, but like, man, is this really worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I don't think I ever didn't think that's what I wanted to do. Luckily, I was able to see a lot of people that went before me, what they had to go through, kind of show that path of what it looks like. So understanding the sacrifice was something that I got. Had a couple of really good buddies that we ended up just being gym for, go to school, go to the gym, train, go to practice.
You have that group. That's important.
I did have a really good group of guys that I kind of came up with that was able to watch and then to train with. But actually, Travis Mash, I don't know if you guys know the name. He's over at Rise.
He's a monster. Yeah. He's up at Rise now.
Yeah, so he's up at Rise. He was in a little gym. He was out of Gym 365.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then he had his own little thing right beside 365. I remember for a while.
So,
hey, if you guys want to look like Cade, go check out Rise. Seriously,
paid sponsorships. So got in with Travis Mash. He taught me how to lift properly, and it became really fun. It became like another sport. So I almost fell in love with the training part as much as playing when I was pretty young. So. Super grateful for the people that happened to be right down the road. A guy like that trained me when I was young. So, not so much at any times where I didn't think I wanted to do it, but there were certainly times where it's like the wake up call of you go to a camp and there's 50 guys that are every bit as good as you are. It's like, okay, now you start to the competition part to want to try harder, to want to train, and
so what point in your I don't know if I cut you off, but what point in your high school career, because that's when it starts getting serious, what point did you really know you could go play in college, and what point did it start? Because mine was my junior year. It kind of started going.
That's when it really started to take off, and you get past like good high school player to like, okay, there's something here.
And you say going to camps, you saw other guys that were. So what point did you notice? Okay, I want to go play in college. This is an actual thing that I can do.
Yeah, and that's funny you say that. Like college was always just the dream for me.
Yeah,
like the NFL and playing after that was not even a part of the goal. It was always, I want to be a college football player.
Yeah,
so that was kind of the dream. And then luckily I had a really good freshman football team when I was a freshman at Davie.
Right.
And got to be a part of that with some linemen that ended up going to play in college and having a good career. So I had a good career, or had a good year. Kind of knew that, okay, college might be an option.
Right.
And then, like you said, it became the buckle down to go to the camps and sacrifice summers to be focusing on that. But I would say kind of early in high school, I knew that was kind of the dream, and it might be a real dream to chase.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously, with that comes so many ups and downs.
Oh yeah.
Actually had a pretty good freshman year. Got some looks and things like that, and then got hurt my sophomore year.
Really?
Fought through some injuries junior year. So it was. I got an early taste of like, hey, maybe I could do this. And
right.
Always felt like there was something in the way. So
what injuries did you have in high school?
So high school, I had knees. I jacked out a PCL or MCL, whatever it was, a couple times on either leg, and so sitting through off season or sitting a few games throughout the year, that was just a part of it. But luckily, it prepared me for college because there was a lot more of that.
So when did and you guys jump in whenever you
no, you're good.
I just want you had a couple injuries. When did you decide to go to Wake, and what was that? What was the, because for baseball, the recruiting process for us, I'm sure it wasn't the same as what it was for you. So I'm interested to hear like what was it like for you whenever you chose to go to Wake, other schools, like what was it like?
Yeah, so recruiting is one of those things where it's like super lucrative, and you see guys getting recruited, and you want to be recruited because, I mean, it's status and
just to say that you are.
Right. To say you're a recruit going to a game this week. It's ego driven. But so like I said, freshman year had a decent season. So then you get invited to go watch ball games. You get to go to certain colleges and watch games and get treated nicely. And feel special about it. So a lot of ego in that, and that's super fun for like a year.
Yeah.
And then you go into the sophomore, junior year of doing the same stuff, and it's like, man, that's when it's like, all my buddies are hanging out on Saturday.
Right. I got to sacrifice a whole weekend.
It was really cool to go to this place and watch this game until now I'm like, I got to go to it. You know, started, there was definitely a point in that like junior year of wanting to say, okay, where am I going to go to school? So I can be done with this. And it's actually funny. I wish I had prepared for it with the scripture, but Coach Higgins was one of the coaches at Wake Forest. He's a receivers coach.
Yeah.
And I was at Davidson Day at this point, my senior year in high school, or going into my senior year in high school. And I had been reading a devotion, and I cannot remember where it's at. And so I would have had to prepare for this.
It's
but
okay. We do it too.
Good, man.
So
every podcast. I wish I remember that verse. It's in there.
You're good, bro.
But it was in the New Testament, and it was going back to the Old Testament, and it was, if on this day you hear from the Lord, do not harden your hearts.
Yeah.
And I had read that. I had this little tiny Bible that I kept in my book bag. Came home from school, and that was what I read that day. Don't know why. No idea what led me to that scripture.
Right.
Well, at that point, you get recruiting letters from coaches. So I've got the Wake Forest has offered me. They want me, and I've entertained that a lot. So they're writing like some hand letters.
Yeah.
Coach Higgins writes me a letter that night. I go get it from there. Got a little bit of mail. Go get it. Open the letter. And, hey, Cade, hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Thinking about you over here at Wake Forest. Quotes, if on this day,
no way.
From the Lord, do not let you. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I believe in like these crazy signs, but whoa.
That's crazy, bro.
There's something to that. And I'd already known that I really liked the coaching staff. I loved the campus, knew that I loved the thought of being close to home for college. All the things made sense, and it was that stressful time of trying to make a decision.
Right.
And heard from the Lord through Coach Higgins that day, which ended up being an awesome choice, awesome decision, but awesome relationship with that coach. And just one
crazy,
of those guys
bro.
That's pretty cool.
That lived it. He furthers the kingdom every day, and something there.
Yeah, bro.
God used him to kind of give me some clarity during that time. So that was kind of
crazy.
That was one of the tipping points in the decision process to go to school.
What year was that?
That was late in my junior year.
Okay,
somewhere between junior.
So you still your senior year you were committed to Wake.
All
cool.
Senior year
took some of that pressure away. Hopefully.
Oh yeah. Well, it just became. And it's a blessing to have any options to go to a couple different schools, but it did become a burden to think about which decision is going to be made and where you're going to end up going. Just to have
it's a relief, man, when you know this is where I'm going and you're locked in.
You're confident that you had confidence that was the Lord's path for you,
right?
And I'm sure you were praying about it,
exactly.
And I want to get into your testimony and just how the Lord's working in your life, but. Let's keep going in. So you get to Wake Forest your freshman year. What was the biggest change for you? Like, what was obviously the school, but I'm saying for sports, what was the biggest change?
Yeah, the fact that you're playing with like grown men at that point.
They're 3 years older than you.
So I went to school. I graduated high school early and went in the winter.
I didn't know that. I didn't know
really?
That. So you were there You're like
After football
17.
So yeah,
Basically.
finish football season in high school, graduate Christmas time, go to Wake Forest in January.
So you can lift and stuff being there in the spring.
Right, so you can kind of get a little bit of a head start in the program. So the winter time and football off season is the time of year to get after it. Like, So the competitions and all that. So we kind of jumped into that part of the off season.
That's your first time being there.
Yeah,
And
so
you in there
like,
with some freaking horses.
yeah, like a month, get into it, dip your toe, and then it was like awakenings. That's like the 5 a.m. competitions, condition, all that stuff, and so that was the eye opener of what
Was the intensity different? Like compared, because I'm sure like your high school team was elite.
When I went to Davidson Day, it was really an awesome bridge because it was kind of between the coach there ran things like a college, and so I got a really good exposure to a little bit more what that might look like.
Right.
Then you're in it, and it's real time. And
you can't. Nothing can prepare you for it. Yeah. I'm sure it's something like that.
So that was the big transition, was heading into that off season of they're in the middle of getting after it, and I was just showing up. So luckily I came in with 6 other guys, and we
y'all were
together. So built a really cool bond with some guys
That's sick.
Ended up living with the whole time that I was in school. But yeah, it was a little eye opener.
So that first year, though, that didn't count like towards your 4 years of eligibility, though, right? Was that like kind of not a redshirt year, but how does that work? Like, because the following fall would have been your first year on the field.
Yeah, so that's exactly how it worked. Like as if I was not there, basically.
Yeah.
So did you do any classes or anything already too?
Yeah, so I took 12 hours the minimum. So I'm over there. Football is like work now, it takes a lot of time, and the effort level that it required was so much greater. Go to school. By the time that was over, go to sleep. It was. I just.
So did you like load your classes at all, like during the off season of football?
I would definitely try to take the more important classes or the more effort driven classes in the spring semester, and then we would be there for the summer. So take summer school, try to get the hard ones out of the way.
Yeah,
but
I always forget that.
I want to make the point too. I said that he was crazy athletic because you are.
Yeah.
But the dude works his butt off.
Right.
I want to make the point that like, to get to where he got
it takes both.
We'll get into his college career, but yeah, he's super talented, but the dude worked his butt off. I just want to say that. So then your first year playing, like you get there in the winter and you go through the whole spring and so your first year, that next fall, what was it like? Did you play a lot? Like, what was it like?
Yeah. So the season before I got there, we were not very good. We had a new coaching staff, so that their MO for the whole last year and off season was, as many guys we can get to quit, we're going to get out of the program.
Really? So that's what you come into.
On the back end of that.
So
trying to make y'all quit.
When you got there, they want. So wait, it was a new coach and everything.
So the coach had been there 2 seasons before I got there.
So you committed to that coach.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So I got it.
They had just been trying to clean house, basically, for the people who really weren't bought
trying
in.
to get you. I got you.
So not a lot of winning culture, a lot of winning ways. So the whole point of those off seasons was, let's get the guys that don't want to be here out, and we'll recruit heavy and get our guys in. So showed up to that. What was the question? Freshman year.
Yeah. I just want your first. I want to just know about your first college game, like.
Oh man, that was so much fun.
I was just at a App State Marshall game, and I haven't been to a college football game in a while. Those things are sick, bro. Like
App wore them out too.
They did. But the environment, nothing. I just always compare it to like what I've seen. Nothing will ever compare to a football game, dude.
College sports,
college football.
That's why the NIL thing is such a shame too.
And we can get into that. But what was your first football game like on campus, like at Wake or away? I don't know where you were.
So really the first season, so came in, like I said, we were low on guys that were ready to play in the body, and so kind of the whole point of that off season was to prove that I could get on the field that freshman year. So things worked out. A couple guys got hurt, this and that. Ended up getting a start going into freshman year, and actually had a pretty decent first half of the season. A lot of little nicks and dings, and that was a whole new part of college football. Was you're lifting during the season, you're conditioning during the season. Just
it's all different.
Another level.
It's a job. It's a job. Yeah.
So learning what that looked like while going to school, that was a big adjustment. But awesome freshman year. We went to a bowl game that year, so it was kind of the start of the new.
Yeah, so you had a good year.
The new staff establishing. That was their third year having their players.
Yeah, it takes a while to change culture, man.
Yeah, so that third year is usually a big year for if you're gonna
You get your guys in there,
around a little
you
bit.
kind of change the heart and the mentality in the locker room.
So came in
And
at
bro,
a really
if you're,
good time.
I want you to don't be humble. Like, because you played your freshman year.
Be humble, but be honest.
Yeah, just be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the truth. Like, you had an unbelievable career. So I want to know, like, when did you?
No,
when did it
that
start?
segues
You know
into
what I'm
the
saying?
story a little bit.
Yeah.
Though. So I did have a pretty good freshman year. Not really good, but just I played. I was on the field my freshman year.
Right, which is in itself is good.
So
Have to open eyes.
Success. We went to a bowl game. It was super exciting. Those guys that had been there for 3 and 9 seasons went to a bowl game. Got
is
to
awesome.
be
They were
pampered and
hyped,
experience
man.
that.
Yeah.
It was
That's
awesome
awesome.
being a part of that. And then I go into my sophomore year, have a decent year. Nixon Dings. I ran. We talked about how I run a little bit. I did not play
we're
smart.
Yeah.
You know,
We're gonna get into that. We're gonna
I heard some interviews like I'm always been a downhill runner.
you can even say right now,
Run into contact.
like that's the way you were though. You weren't trying to juke. I mean, I don't know if you were trying to juke. You were running into dude. I watched a video of you running this way and the dude's over here, and you started veering towards.
That's not good.
Yeah, but it was like it's the way you played.
Yeah, so I did. I don't know what it was. I think I didn't. I was not the fastest guy out there.
Right.
I wasn't the biggest guy out there. So something had to be, I was going to try harder than people. That was kind of the whole MO was I'm going to try harder and try to be tougher. Well, that got me hurt a lot, but it was also really fun. So sophomore year I had a decent year, and by then I knew the plays. I had this college thing figured out.
Or you're more comfortable.
Going into going into that sophomore year, it was I had a prayer, and it was like, God, like I've got a little bit of taste of this,
right?
And I'm on fire for you right now. Like my relationship with the Lord is really good at this point. I'm plugged into a ministry that we can talk about.
Yeah.
And so my prayer is like, Lord, give me the stage because I will glorify you. Like I will
That's
point
awesome,
to you.
dude.
I had it written out.
That's awesome.
Like whatever that big platform is that I can have, like I will use it for your glory.
Right.
And so that was the big prayer. And I had big expectations going into that year. I felt healthy and all that. Well, I go in, I don't remember how many games into the year it was, but jacked up my knee really bad.
Right.
Had me on the sideline for probably like 5 or 6 games that year.
Yeah.
And so it was a
Still your sophomore year, right?
Yeah.
I think so. So had
It all blends together.
it goes so fast. So I had this big prayer, these big expectations. I was ready for it, and I feel like spiritually, I thought that I was ready to have that platform. Mm-hmm. Well, then I kind of forget about that prayer after a few games. I get hurt, and now my day consists of no media, no highlights or nothing like that. Not getting in the games, and every day I go into the strength.
Yeah, like the
athletic training room, rehab room. Yeah.
And so now every day I'm in there with like 3 other hurt kids and the trainer, and I'm like,
here's my platform.
what a platform. I ended up finding out that the trainer goes to the church that we go to now. He's very plugged in. He's strong in his faith. We got to talking, and over the course of that 6 or 8 weeks where I was rehabbing with him every day with no platform, we got to talking about maybe what his church could do to bridge a gap between college students and their church. Ended up starting a ministry or like a worship night or college night that brought a lot of my friends into the church that hadn't been around and heard Jesus and experienced that. And I was you look at all this, and during that season, it was such a disappointment of God, I was ready for touchdowns is what I kind of had in mind.
That's what you had in mind. God had different plans, man.
And my platform was this one guy.
So cool. That's amazing.
Who was open to the Lord, working in him, took the steps to go to the church and pitched this idea, and they made it happen.
Sick.
So
that's so sick.
Having some awesome worship nights and like I said, exposing guys to the word that might not have been as willing to go to some of the stuff on campus.
Right.
And so, and then some other hurt guys that were like, well, what's all this about?
Yeah. So that ministry, that was connected between just a group of students and a local church. Like, was it for athletes specifically or kind of open campus wide?
We had Athletes in Action was our ministry that we can talk about. But this was the church that we went to that I knew hardly anyone.
Right.
And then that trainer who also went there and was looking to let God use him.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That's
I want to ask, when did you, because we're talking kind of stuff, when did you accept Christ? Like, I know you went to church with your family growing up, but when did it get real for you?
Yeah. So 8th grade was kind of the year. So this is a big part of my story was 8th grade. People start like doing like actual things that we consider bad. You know?
Oh yeah.
So I had this like moral, man, like
like a compass.
I got my boys who are getting into some stuff that is like real stuff now, you know. And then I've got there was some friends that I knew they were the church kids and had their youth group and I was interested in it, but I really had my boys. But they were going another way and
100%
very torn for like a year there. So I noticed myself starting to try to hang out with the group that I knew was that kind of the youth group. Good guys, really cool group of people. But they were a little bit established, like this is who we are.
Yeah.
And so I kind of slinked my way into like make them invite me to youth group kind of thing. So I'm going to youth group. I'd gone a couple times. And so this is 8th grade. I'm looking at trying to play varsity freshman year.
Right.
I know what that looks like with like, you got grown guys doing grown up stuff.
A lot of temptation there for sure.
Like a lot of stuff going on there. But I'm still in 8th grade. So I'm like right before I kind of think of like, I'm like a kid standing at the deep end of the pool who knows good and well he can't swim. I'm like looking at this.
Should I jump in?
Oh my gosh. And so anyway, the whole sermon series, they got T-shirts printed out and everything of a road sign that says which way you headed, and it's got like a fork in the road. I'm like, okay, like this, and that's exactly what I was looking for. Wow. And so the one way obviously was the way of the world. The other way was accepting Jesus and walking with him. So throughout that sermon series, gave my life to Christ truly. You know, I went to church and stuff. But I gave my life to Christ and became a Christian that 8th grade year, right before.
Your life changed
right before high school, which to me was obviously at that time the biggest thing in the world.
It's huge,
and it is. That's why I think it's so cool. I wanted to make sure to tell you I love what you're doing with your life.
Oh man, me too, man. I'm such a blessing, dude.
You do understand, but a youth leader who he actually bugged me to be a part of this group and continue to go. He's the one that ended up winning my life over for Christ, and set the path that I went. And I was lucky enough to go into high school on fire for Jesus and show up, making it known that I was walking with the Lord, and kind of set my reputation, which is not for the reputation's sake, but the fact that like people expected I was with Jesus.
You're public about it, man. That's big to take a stand.
I also, man, I remember going to football games and you always had the verse on the back. But so like it's something small like that, but it wasn't. I mean, that pictures got posted and everybody knew. That's what I think was so cool about it. It was like you're saying it was out for everybody. It wasn't like you were, and that's something
it was bold. It wasn't something you shied away from.
And that's what like last night at youth we were talking about like genuine faith, how it changes your life. It makes you bold. Genuine faith, you're going to be bold, man.
Right.
And that's something that I think. I mean, you have confidence just because you're a confident guy, but Christ gives you confidence to be like that, and that's what I think is so cool.
I gotta give a shout out to Mama for the back plate idea. That
really,
was, wanted to like you said, I wanted to show it. Now I'm a new Christian, and I'm supposed to be showing this and using my platform and all that good stuff. She gave the idea that
that's
slap
awesome.
Something on the back plate. So it was a new verse every weekend that I would.
The one that I saw was
my jersey.
It was Ephesians. I think
6:14 or 6:13.
It was either 2, 8, and 9, or it was 6 something. I forget.
It was in the armor of God.
That's armor of God.
That was a go-to.
I thought that. So
I love that. I love that prayer you had for your sophomore year. Like, like God, I know I'm walking with you. I'm doing what I need to be doing. I'm being faithful. Like, do something big. You help me use my platform, right? Like, I think so many times we're afraid to pray these bold prayers and like asking God to work through us, not for our sake, right? For His sake, ultimately. Like, Lord, use me in this platform for your glory. But I think, like, even for myself, I wish I was more bold in my prayers sometimes. Like God, show up, do something amazing in our church, in our community, in our family, or whatever, right? Like, it's exciting to see you like praying with like expectations like that.
So I know we're jumping. So
we're kind of all over.
I know. So we're in college, back to high school. So which way you headed? That's where Cade gets saved, right? He decides to head Jesus' way, and so thankful because go into high school, get like you said, it was almost something that helped me a lot, having a reputation of this guy's with Jesus. To seek that and to continue to walk in that, and that's got its pitfalls plenty for having any kind of reputation. Right. We were reading Revelation last week about about the 7 churches and which church are you? And so the complacency and the one who on the outside looks like a Christian but is dead. So there's I don't say reputation to think only outward, but God really He blessed me and given me a reputation when I was on fire for Jesus, and and it was really a cool thing. go flash forward back to college, I kind of go in with that same attitude, quickly establish I'm rolling with Jesus. This is kind of who I am, and that helped me in a lot of ways getting to college for the same reasons.
Right.
But going back to that prayer where God answered that prayer.
Yeah.
But man, it did not.
It was
look
different
like
what we envisioned.
I wanted it to look
Not
like.
your timing, right?
I was talking to my cousin about that a few weeks ago. He'd been praying for something at work. Got exactly what he had been praying for. It was really, really cool story of like a week after truly surrendering and saying, Lord, like I know I've been saying this, but whatever it is,
Right.
he got exactly what he had been praying about, plus night shift with it. You know, it's like, man, like who is God going to use him to get to at night shift? But it's God gave him exactly what he was asking. He gave me exactly what I asked for.
Yeah.
Golly, I had to look at it in the right lens.
I want to ask you about, so like your high school career, you accepted Jesus as an 8th grader, and then you went in your high school career, and you did have this reputation. And like you said, it wasn't just outward, it's inward, but like people knew you were a Christian.
Yeah.
Did you see, I feel like sometimes Christians are scared to be bold because they're afraid of people not accepting them.
Right.
But one thing I remember in my senior year of high school, you were a freshman, dude, you were friends with everybody. Like not hanging out with them, but you were friends with everybody. Nobody looked at Cade and was like, I'm not hanging out with that dude because he's a Christian.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like, this is really for like the youth group. I feel like that age is so important that, man, like if you're a believer in Jesus, be bold. Nobody's going to, everybody's weird, man.
Right.
Everybody has their thing.
And I think that was so powerful for me was understanding this whole concept of identity. Like who I am is his, you know, I am God's child. And so knowing that and truly knowing that more than because the Bible tells me so, but walking
feeling
in that, or just trying that, walking in that. And like, there was a lot of times where I was the weird one standing out, not doing this or that, or bringing up Jesus when you don't bring up Jesus.
Right.
But it was very well received because I let God make that who I was.
Right.
And more than, I feel like a lot of times you get into the temptation to one of two things, either kind of back away from it and hide it and shy away from it, which I'm tempted to do and have done way too many times, or it's very outward and that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's hollow. And you make it very public. That
it's just a display.
You're with Jesus, but are you really? You know, where is that? And I've been on both camps, many times throughout my life. But it was, I will make it very clear that standing up for Jesus and being sure about whose I am and what that means to follow him, you're totally able to have a real life and be a real person.
Like we were talking on the way over here about, you can be a Christian and be cool.
Yeah.
Not to the world's eyes, but you don't have to be weird, man. Like, and I think not weird isn't the right word. I'm not trying to like.
You
can have fun.
Like socially, you don't have to be like socially like an outcast.
Dude. You can play sports. You can be competitive. You can be.
You can
bold.
get after
you can
it,
be
man.
Confident. Like just because you're a Christian and it says it says be meek and humble. Yeah. But you can be confident.
That's power under control.
And that's when you said that on the way over, you're like, dude, you were a cool Christian. You still are. I think we all are, and I think it's so cool, man. Like, it's awesome how you were bold at a young age.
And like going more into that, sometimes you see, okay, this guy's a Christian now. That means he lives in this box.
You can't come out of it.
You got to be this guy now. Your identity is a Christian, so you're this person. But I think like we were talking about, there's so many times, at least in my mind, that connotation is, okay, now you're pretty lame. Yeah. Probably weird.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's sad to say, but that's kind of what it is, man.
Yeah. And it can be that way. And there's realness to that stigma. And we were talking about, there's a lot of times where you feel like you're alone walking this walk.
Right.
As an athlete who's got a real life.
And you're going in locker rooms.
Spend time around real people and real things.
Yeah, right.
You can be in it, but not of it. Right. And so many times we try to put ourselves as far away from that world, when I was reading in Luke that Jesus didn't come to he came to save the sick, not the well, right?
Right.
So, once you're at a point in your faith where you can walk in some of those places, I think that's where power's at.
Yeah, that's where you need to be. That's the people that need to be reached.
Right. And so yeah,
that's cool.
The conversation about the weird Christian and, the real life Christian, I think I love what you guys do, because it does bring a little bit of hope. And before I'd even talked to anybody about this podcast, I saw that y'all were doing it when I was in Tennessee, and I'm listening to you guys, and it brought such a feeling of like, okay, like these are my kind of, they're all my kind of guys,
normal guys. And I think
a
lot of that like self-doubt is from the devil, right? And telling you like, you're a Christian now. Oh, you can't have fun anymore. You know, you can't play no video games. You can't go work out hard. You can't play hard in sports. Like you can't get a little fired up sometimes. You know, you have to be just like toe the line perfectly.
Box. Perfectly.
It doesn't mean we live in sin, but it also doesn't mean we have to be bland in our lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like you still live a passionate life.
Brother. You know, brother, the way you said it was much better than the way I said it. But that's what I'm saying, dude. Like you don't have to be bland. You can be passionate, because I'm passionate. I'm emotional. That's the way I am. I mean, I'm not gonna like that's the way the Lord made me.
Imagine when Jesus goes back to Jerusalem, right, for Passover, and he finds everybody in the temple like changing money, selling everything, and he drives everybody out. Like, just imagine the passion that was flowing right there.
Some
you know what I mean?
There.
People are fleeing because they're terrified. Right?
Yeah.
And working on the Sabbath, like constantly doing things.
Always doing stuff, man.
Outside of the box.
Right.
Yeah.
That was
good.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, that was one of the places, like you said, I felt like, again, maybe that was a big part of my walk was, man, I'm a Christian and I love Jesus.
Right.
But so many of the people I'm supposed to hang out with now are kind of weird, and they're not right. And I'm weird to them.
They're not interested in the same stuff.
Just as weird to them as they are to me.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And, but learning that I could walk in these places where other people were, where the world was at, and represent Jesus, and still, you know, confidently uphold my morality and the faith. Golly, so much success there. As far as winning souls and like witnessing to people and living in the world with people who didn't see the world like I did. Man, when they come across some hard stuff, guess who they go to? Like so many cool stories that I know y'all have got. Of, I just went to the gym every day with this guy, didn't say a word about Jesus to him, lived my life, but he knew something was different. Things are down. He comes to you because,
and that's your chance.
Hey, what is it, man? Yeah. So many cool stories of getting to witness through that.
Tell me more about the minute, like, okay, so you got in college, and I think we downplayed the amount. I want to talk about more about your football career in college. So your junior year, I want you to tell me a story.
That's where we got. We were transitioning from the sophomore to the junior year.
Yeah, that's when the ministry came up. I want you to tell me a story.
Like, what was your favorite college game you played? Like, what? Man. Because I'm telling you, dude, there's something about the environment that's just different. And that fires me up watching. I've never played football.
Probably my favorite memory. And there were some cool games. Like we played in the Belk Bowl my sophomore year. Texas A&M.
In Charlotte.
In Charlotte.
Like, y'all played Texas A&M?
I remember
atmosphere.
that. Yeah.
And so really cool game. The bowl games are always fun. But one of my favorites was probably on a Thursday night at Carter Finley against NC State. They're ranked like right there, cracking top 10, maybe like 11th or 12th. Go down there, and it's like a back and forth game. It was just an awesome atmosphere. It was a blackout. Carter Finley gets nuts. That is a cool stadium.
It's awesome. Games there are sweet.
A lot of students there.
A lot of students there. A lot going on. That was a really, really fun atmosphere just to be a part of that game. But we walked it off with a touchdown, like the clock going out. That was a quiet night. That might be my favorite game. That was a fun game.
One of the questions that we kind of talked about asking you, and this kind of goes on with football and your faith, was there any point in college where like the fans, the platform, like kind of like popularity on campus, all that stuff, was there ever a time where you thought you were getting into deep, or like you thought it was going to make you, I don't know what the question is.
Is that the question I kind of talked about?
Yeah, like how'd you handle that?
I was just more so wondering, like, how do you, given this large platform, a lot of people are watching you, you're one of the stars on the team, like for a major school. How do you recognize that and understand this is my platform, but not allow like this prideful mentality to kind of start to build up? You know what I mean? Because that's very easy, right? With success, it's very easy for pride to creep in, and you 100%. Start to look at yourself more than look to Christ more, right? So like, and especially in your experience as an athlete at Wake Forest, like how do you go about that? Like, how did you go about that?
And I will say, like, Wake Forest is not like a massive,
right.
You're not larger than life on campus.
Right.
I go to class. I had to write the papers. Like, you want to get brought back to humility, turn in a paper away.
That's a tough school, man.
There's plenty of humility that was tossed around in the classroom, but no. So it wasn't like a huge place where you were a celebrity. And there was never quite that temptation because it was, I was having to go to class actually. And
that kind of keeps like, okay, I'm still a student. I'm still normal.
It's still a grind, even though you had an awesome weekend and got to go to these really cool places and play. But that was I don't know that there was ever a time where it was just all go to my head. And if there probably was. I got hurt enough to get right back down to reality.
Back to the training room.
Yeah, exactly. Back to the training room. And
was that trainer there all 4 years?
He was, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He's still there. He's an awesome guy, and Tate's getting to be a part of his ministry in the training room now.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. I know pride's just been something we've been talking a lot with our youth students, and not even just like pride in like an arrogant standpoint, but just like focused more on myself than on Christ. Focused more on honoring myself and what I want as opposed to what God may want me to do with my life. Because that just hits home for me personally too, and I think it does for a lot of people. Like pride is something we all struggle with to some extent at some point.
Yeah. And I asked that question because I've literally seen people get to a stage in baseball and they completely change.
Yeah.
So that's where for me it's, I don't know, man. I like you're saying, it's so easy for us to fall into this temptation of it's me above Christ.
Right.
And as soon as that thought enters in at all, we've lost it, man.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, dude, that's a good answer.
And that's cool. And that's one that I've carried with me. Is John 3:30? He must increase, and I must decrease.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a cool story, man.
That's one that was. I was just reading the other side of that in Luke. This week we were talking about Luke, but carrying that with me and letting that be a little bit of a life verse of He must increase, I must decrease.
Right.
He must become greater, I must become less. Not that I have to be little, but in the context of John, and John he was good. Like in our standards, like he had it going on. He was good. And even then when people would ask if you're the Christ, he's like, no.
Right.
Like, that's not me.
That cave untied.
Bro, my man Cade knows it. That's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Trying to keep that in mind, it was a big one. And like I said, having scripture to go to.
Yeah, right.
Even in a whatever size school that we were, where there was temptations to fall into that a little bit.
Right.
Having the word on you is it just, I guess it keeps you in check.
It's important. Man. That's why we need to be in it. You know,
just knowing that to draw on something that, and that's a 5-word verse,
right?
But to carry that with me was a big part of my own story.
Yeah,
letting Jesus be the.
What was it like when you went to school? Right, like from a not just sports standpoint, but like spiritually, like knowing. That's a completely different atmosphere. I'm not living at home anymore. I'm surrounded by new people, new environment, like new team. Like how did you go about, and what recommendation would you have for either athletes or new students that are about to go to college, right? Like what would you focus on, right? Knowing like you're in a new atmosphere. You want to protect your faith.
So I talked about that a little bit with Jeremy on the way up here. I was talking about in my life right now, being out of college, not being around so many people, which is very similar to going to college, not being around the same people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God did not mean for us to do this by ourselves. Yeah. And that is the advice, is find the ministry, find the people that are walking with the Lord and walk with them, man, because there are way too many things that will take you down or put you on the wrong path or really take over your God place in life of what your God is. And having people, I mean, there's so many times in college where I would fall to apathy or not wish that I had the burden sometimes of being the Jesus kid.
Yeah.
But having people that will call you on that, or having the Bible study that you get to go to on a Wednesday night to remind you, just you were not meant to do this by 100%. Yourself.
I love that so much because we were talking about, even this past week at youth and last podcast, about the importance of sharing your testimony with other believers and lost people, right? But like, not just your testimony of how you came to know Christ, but just like how God's working in your life
today.
Because like, man, like if I come to Kirk and Kirk might be struggling with something I don't even know, but I'm like, man, Kirk, God spoke to me in this, or I have this verse, like, you have no idea how the Holy Spirit can work through you for him. You know what I mean?
How many times have you been in a Bible study or with some of your boys and something's eating up at you and somebody else starts to open up about the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's what I was just going to say. Like,
it is people.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you're not supposed to do it alone. It's like relational. We talk about that. How one meaningful conversation with somebody can build your relationship more than it has in 10 years. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying a meaningful
real conversation.
Not hey man, how are you? Oh,
How's
good.
your
School's
day?
good. All right, peace. Like, that's not a real conversation.
Yeah.
Or like
And sometimes those are awkward. Sometimes those are like uncomfortable.
It is awkward.
It's supposed to be uncomfortable. Like, it's getting to know each other. And the only way that we grow is by doing that. And that's why I love this. It's because I've learned more about you sitting here talking about you than I have in a while.
Right.
And our relationship would be different going forward because we've had this time to share and open up.
Yeah.
And like, dude, for you guys watching, man, find people.
Yes.
If you can't find people, talk to us, man. Like, like we're weird, like we were talking about earlier.
Send an email. Somebody send us an email.
Can someone please send an email? I'll give you a free T-shirt.
No, it's worth it. Put yourself out there.
Yeah. Yes.
Just put yourself out there.
But isolation,
you
the opposite of that, though, like isolation is dangerous. Like I've been in seasons of my life where I have isolated myself, or I didn't have that group of that Bible study. Like my 2 years of undergrad had an amazing Bible study group. Yeah. Went into pharmacy school. The guy that was leading that like left, and like looking back, those 3 years of life where I was in graduate school were just completely like empty in my walk with the Lord because I didn't have that group. Yeah. And so that's just like how important it is to get that group and walk alongside with them. Because if not, like you basically just like you justify a lot, you isolate yourself,
and you go into it thinking you can do it on your own.
Yeah,
exactly. But bro, we're weak people. Humans are weak. I mean, dude's pretty big, but we're all weak. No, it's the truth, man. You need others.
No, but if you're a Christian, be prepared for that to look like you being there for somebody else.
Yeah,
true. That's some of the best relationships that I've got were an awkward conversation with somebody I kind of knew that either needed to have somebody help carry his burden or that I needed to get something off my chest on. And now, like, that's my guy. You cannot do this by yourself. And
I think that's one of the most fulfilling things is when you're unknowingly being used by the Holy Spirit to help touch someone's life. Where like someone's in need of something and then they come back to you 6 months later and say, man, dude,
better.
You had a conversation with me, or you did, or it's something so small, right? Something that you're not even conscious of. You're not even like, oh, I'm going to go do this to help this person. It's just being you, just being there with a brother or sister in Christ, and just knowing, man, that was the Holy Spirit working through me. Yeah, like that. That's awesome. That's what it means.
Constantly interceding.
Yeah.
Okay. We are kind of bouncing around, but like this is what we do, and that's fine.
I like the football talk. Let's hit the football talk.
That's what I was going to.
Yeah, come on.
So you get to your junior and your senior year, and you said earlier tonight that the college was the goal. NFL was never a goal. Was there ever did you ever have an opportunity to go? Like, was there ever even a thought of, okay, I want to try it?
Yeah.
Where? And I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about when you've stopped playing football, how you dealt with something that you did for so long. And
before we get to that, I have one more question about during football, the whole career.
Yeah.
What was it like? Because obviously injuries were a big part of your career.
Yeah.
And I know, Jeremy, you've dealt with injuries too.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear you guys kind of like just talk about like your perspective on dealing with those setbacks and like the frustration, the sense of defeat at times, I'm sure, like this almost anger maybe, because like you're putting in this work, you're doing what you think you should be doing, right? But you're constantly feel like you're being held back. It's like, God, I want to go just put 110% out there, but there's this nagging pain, this thing holding me back. Like how did you approach that mentally and, get through that, like what was that like?
Yeah, that was like you said, that was a big part of my career, if you will, was being hurt and working to come back from something. With knees, shoulders, whatever it was.
There's always something.
I was always dealing with something. If I was playing, I was hurting. If I wasn't, I was injured.
Did you ever lie to a trainer that say, I'm good, when really?
I know the answer to that, bro.
No, I don't have a concussion.
But seriously, you probably got I can't imagine how much you get banged up.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the way that you
carrying the ball 30 times.
Yeah.
So the way I played was dumb. I ran straight forward. I looked for contact. Like I played in a way that got me hurt a lot. And I wouldn't not play that way. That's a game I love, and that's the way I like to play. But yeah, it landed me hurt a lot. And like you said, there was going into my senior year, I tore my labrum in my shoulder. So that's 6 months of no team workouts.
Yeah.
Lower body only with
in
a
a
trainer,
sling.
in a sling, all of that. So the frustration is definitely there. And I think it's easy to focus on that. And some of the, I would say, some of the highest expectations in my walk came from when I was playing well, thinking, all right, God, like you're gonna let me speak out for you because of this.
Yeah.
Some of the most growth came from when I was hurt. No one cared what I was doing as long as I checked into rehab.
Wow.
You know, that was what was important to anybody that was.
That's
that was
amazing. You
me.
recognizing that.
Looking back, looking back, I recognize that, and not always in the moment. I won't pretend that I was, you know, the minute I got hurt, thinking, all right, God, like you're gonna mold me.
Yeah. Oh no,
you're gonna be sharpening.
And you're a competitor, man.
I'm pissed that I'm not playing, and practicing, and keeping my spot on the team all day. But I would definitely say having a close relationship with the Lord, and then when you're not close with the Lord, having people that are speak into you. So Athletes in Action was our ministry in Wake. That's at a lot of colleges, I think. It's kind of like FCA, but at a college level. So Joe Haynes, he's the chaplain of the football team, and he runs AIA. He had a little servant team that I was a part of. So I had some really mature and strong Christians in my corner. But again, getting poured into constantly, because the ministry didn't stop because I was hurt.
Right.
Having Athletes in Action on Tuesday nights didn't stop because I was hurt.
Right.
Dang. People pouring into me didn't stop because I was hurt. So that was something that was a big part of, I think, keeping the spirits high and not letting that get me to a place that was, doubtful or super bummed out about it. Not to say that I was not plenty bummed out at times.
I'm sure there were times when you maybe didn't want to go. You know, like bro, like I mean.
In the
what's
pit
the point
for the sixth day in a row. You know,
that thing's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long. It's not fun. It's not. You don't play the game to be rehabbing. But I don't know. I just think that understanding that was just the next thing. And I think that a lot of that goes to the faith of here I am. You know, like I guess like making lemonade. It's like it doesn't matter where I'm at. You know, like.
Pulling the positive out.
That sophomore year story is so cool. Like how your platform wasn't what you expected, but man, it was amazing.
And not so much that like I said, that my mindset was like, Lord, use this rehab session. But like a lot of that did come out of those rehab sessions, or training or being in the pit was our like hurt people where you would go during practice, being in the pit with somebody else now you have a relationship with. So it's, a lot of good came out of it, but I'm not going to pretend like a lot of good was on my mind. I don't know about you.
You made a good point. You said it's so cool how we're talking about your injuries, and some of the first thing you says is your like ministry on campus, right? And like Athletes in Action, and how you're still being used and poured into, and like that's your purpose, right? For me, like sports is not my purpose,
right?
Being a Christian child of God, that's my purpose, and that's where when you look back on college, I know the football was amazing, and like I know when you look back, it's amazing. But I know when you look back and see how the Lord was moving through your life in these ministries through your injuries. That's what you look back and you're like, that's why I was there.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that's where when I got hurt, 100%. I didn't deal with it very well for like the first 6 months. But after about the first 6 months when baseball was taken away, I was like, dude, this isn't my purpose. Baseball's not my purpose. I live my life to be a child of God, not to play baseball. Whatever happens, happens. And I think a lot of maybe that's why I got hurt, is so I was shown, man, this is not why you're here. You're here to.
God's like, let me be clear.
Yes.
You're a Christian.
Don't lose sight.
Cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Very true. And that's something I have to remember in business now.
Right.
Things go bad at work or I'm learning a whole new thing and it's hard and I'm not very good at it.
Yeah.
Same concept.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter where you're at. The principles are the truth. But it's really cool you say that, because so I had these injuries. I fought through those. And then I think during that time, my identity was Christ more than football. And so I was okay with that. And I think truly okay with that, accepting the fact that football or not, I'm with Jesus. And so then going into my senior year, I got to go to ACC Media Day, which is there's a lot of people there, and the networks are playing, your interviews and stuff like that. And they kind of close out the day with you're basically on a big podium on a stage, and the media is open to ask you questions. Well, they're asking football questions, and one of the guys asked, he teed it up for me. I don't know what he asked, but it was like, what is it about you that lets you play? Something like he teed me up really well. And I was like, man. Or he said, maybe how do you deal with the pressures of football and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right,
this is it. This is it. Yeah.
This comes out all right. And I was able to get up there and say, man, it doesn't matter what any of y'all say, whether you say this guy is the best running back or should never play on this field again. It does not matter because who I am is defined by Jesus.
Yeah, bro. Not you guys. Wow.
So that was one of my most, I guess, one thing I'll brag about is I had the chance to do that and let God. That guy, like I said, he gave me a softball.
Hey, that's a good thing to brag about.
Had the courage to say.
Right. Yeah,
I could have easily said I try really hard.
You could have easily taken the easy, just cop out answer.
Yeah,
but did have the opportunity, and that's one of the little clips that I'm most proud about through my college career. Being up there in front of people saying, it doesn't matter what you guys say.
Right.
I belong to Christ, and I belong to Jesus, and He's going to define who I am. And so,
that's awesome.
That I would say. There's a lot of cool stuff, and the games kind of run together. But that one, I remember that day.
That's really
getting
cool,
to say that.
That's amazing. That's one of your favorite memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We at the pastor conference today, we had there were 3 or 4 speakers, but one of the first guys, he was just offering up encouragement to pastors who are struggling in their ministry, right? And kind of similar to anyone who's struggling in life. And he was talking about how God often humbles us before He uses us.
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying that I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know the exact plan for y'all's life or anything, but I mean, in a way, going through those injuries is a way of God shaping you and molding you and preparing you for something else. And I don't know everything that led up to your senior day when you spoke, and we don't know, but it's hard for me not to think that those hours and years spent with athletes in action and in the training room and, giving yourself in these ministries weren't in a way preparing you for that moment and giving you strength along the way. That without that, maybe you don't take that stand,
exactly.
right? And that's where in the moment we don't recognize the trials and the suffering that we're going through for the value that they're really bringing and strengthen our relationship with Christ.
Absolutely. And I think keeping that in mind, and again, not the day that you get hurt or the day that you get fired from work, thinking, all right, God, this is the
right. Yeah, right. You're not gonna go home celebrating. Yeehaw.
Yeah.
But understanding there is a bigger picture.
Yeah, that's it right there.
And I guess having a little bit of a heavenly mindset or an eternal mindset.
Yeah.
And the worst day, how bad is it?
That delayed satisfaction. Yeah. We talked about way back.
Yeah.
But no, it does. It keeps you even, and I like the word solid. I feel like being a Christian has allowed me in so many areas of my life to be solid. Not crazy high, thinking if we win or if I do something good that this is it.
Right.
Because you see guys after Super Bowls crying about that's it.
Yeah, it's over now.
Yeah. And then when it's bad and you're at the low point, thinking, well, this is it. I'm done.
Right.
So I think it kind of allows you to be solid in a lot of the highs and lows in life.
And what drew, obviously, man, growing up with you, seeing your sport career, that's very, I want to talk to you about that. And I've always wanted to ask you questions about that. But what really made us want to have you on here is your faith, man. Is these stories that you're saying and your story about your senior day, that resonates with me so much more than your story about playing football at NC State. Both of them are sick, but man, seeing how God has used you and prepared, like you said, prepared you.
Yeah.
Because you weren't, that senior day when you had the chance to speak, that wasn't the first time that you had thought those words.
Right.
That wasn't the first time that you had prepared those in your mind. You were prepared.
Yeah.
And that's how the Lord has used you, man.
That's true.
But I just wanted to say that, man. We didn't have you on here because you're amazing football player. We had you on here because you're a child of God. And that's the main reason.
I think it's important to brag on that, though.
Yeah.
In that moment.
That's one thing I will brag on that.
Yeah. But Paul says, real quick, he talks about if I do boast about anything, let it be.
Yeah,
the Lord,
right. He does.
Right?
Yeah.
6:14.
Yeah.
But I say that because that's a high in my life. And that is a high point in my life. But it wouldn't be fair for me to come on here and act like a couple of years after playing college football and having those platforms and then going to work and clocking in at 6 to 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
There haven't been a couple quiet years.
Yeah.
It does feel like the mundane and the.
How are you using me now?
Yeah. So I will brag on that high, but I won't pretend like, it's not been like a quiet couple of years to follow that,
right?
And that's okay, you know. And a part of that, the advice I would give in that is, now that we moved back home, I said for several months, now I'm back home, I'm going to get plugged in,
right?
And stuff. Yeah. And it was actually the pastor of my church reaching out to me saying, hey, why don't you come to this Bible study?
Right.
And then a couple groups saying, hey, why don't you come speak with us and come do something with us? And I'm not the hero in these moments. You know, it's God reaching back out and saying, hey, come be a part of the making disciples part of this. You know, you're walking it, and your world right now is work, and that's what's so important to you. But he's used other people to reach out and say, man, like that's cool. Don't forget that your purpose is
I think that's what a lot of people need to know, because not everyone's going to have that kind of platform. Right? Just not many people get the opportunity to play sports at the level you guys have been able to play at, and have the opportunity to speak out like that. But that doesn't mean you can't be used in your day-to-day life.
100%.
You can have a normal job doing anything, right? And that is your ministry, right? Through your job, or through your role as a mother, or as a father, or as a coach, or as just a godly man in the community,
whatever you do,
and anything you're doing, right? And there was funny, another thing the same speaker actually said today is that, like, we won't fully understand and be revealed of the blessing for our obedience until we're in heaven. Right. And thinking about how this daily obedience and, like, giving ourselves to Christ, we don't understand. We have no idea of how that's changing people's lives, or how other people may see Christ through our actions until 100%. Maybe one day in heaven when it's all revealed to us. Like, it's offering encouragement for, like, it might be a little mundane, but you're still being used by God, you know?
Absolutely.
That's one of the reasons I think we started this podcast, right? Is because we can just kind of get in this rut, right? Or maybe just going through the routines, or like going through the actions, but actually just like setting time out of our day, right? I know, like, me and Jacob now definitely, like, or I feel like I am sometimes, is like, I've got a little kid at home, right? Just like the sacrifice is worth it, right? But it's so important for us to have this time to continue to want to grow in our faith, outside of just we've got to make time for this in our busy lives, right?
Make time for what's important.
Yeah.
That was an upperclassman who was strong in his faith and had a big impact on me. Mm-hmm. He would say that, because college athletics, how much time do you have? It's easy to say
it's a job.
At 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, you don't want to be going to church group,
right?
And that was when our ministry was, and he would always say, you make time for what's important, and that is
100%. It's 100% spot on.
You can look at your phone history, screen, whatever the
screen time.
Screen time. That's what it is.
And
it's brutal.
You don't believe me? Look at that.
Get your homework done earlier. That way you got freed up time that evening.
But no, I think it's important to say that, like,
being intentional.
The way that God's used me in the last couple of years looks a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of, like, humbling of myself, and like you said, the lull of the kind of the mundane times, to where I'm thankful right now. I feel like I'm in a season of picking back up my cross a little bit, as far as being outward with my faith, and finding ways to use that in the mundane life that I kind of live in. I feel like God's definitely using that, but it can be very normal.
Which is fine.
Life can be repetitive, man.
I will say this too, and I'm so thankful that you're just real. That's one thing I love about you, is you're open and you're real, but the Lord is still using you, bro. Like, and it might not be in ways that you can see, like you were saying. It might not be this teammates coming up to you and you're able. It might not be in ways like that, but I promise you, people still see you in your day-to-day life. Like, people know who you are and people see you, and even if people don't know who you are, they see the way that you act and they can see Jesus in you. And so,
always watching.
Don't ever, like, for any of when I'm going to be done playing. I don't know when, but at some point,
retirement.
And I mean, dude, I don't know.
That's all we want.
But no, I'm serious, man. Like, I hope that when I'm done playing and I get into a job, I can say, just like we're saying here, man, you can do kingdom work. Everywhere.
Right.
Even when you don't feel like you are. Just being yourself and being and putting in first, like
that's one thing that means so much to me about the idea of discipleship is, yes, I want to pour into every individual that comes to the youth, but don't even just think about that say 30 or 40 kids, but think about then if you are a small part in them coming to walk with Christ and be diligent in their faith, who are then they going to touch? Right? And, like, 100%. I mean, maybe your life is focused on discipling 3 or 4 people. right? And just think about this, the outpouring that they can have, then the trickle down effect.
Yeah, it's like a bucket. This is what it's like a bucket. I might already told y'all this. And my headset's off, so that's why I might be not doing it right. But
I wonder why he was yelling.
It's oh, am I?
No, you're not.
You're good.
If I am,
I turned you down. Don't worry.
All right, just bump me if I ain't got this on. He's like, it's like a bucket being poured. You know, like when you go to those water parks and you see the water pouring in a bucket and it fills, and then it pours another bucket and it fills, and it pours another. If each one of us had 3 people that we were discipling, and each those had 3 people, dude, it would spread like wildfire.
Right.
Yeah.
It don't mean we need to change thousands of people's lives. It means that we need to, like you're saying, disciple 3 people.
Yeah.
And have people discipling us, and it trickles, man.
And another one that I'm learning is like, again, all the viewers out there, whoever you might be.
Thank you, Mom. I love you, Mom.
Lord,
All 3 of our mothers.
Yeah, all 3 of
That
our
was like the first podcast.
Well, we've got 3
I
mothers
remember
now.
that.
So
And
we're
Ron
good.
Cox.
Cade was on that first one. He could have shouted me out. Listening. No, one thing I'm learning though, like you said, the platform isn't quite so big. What a ministry it is to be a husband. There's dad now.
Yeah.
Like that's the new one. And if you can lead that relationship, and that one has been, I think, the most fun, like, discipling relationship. And I won't just say that it's a discipling relationship.
Right.
There's a whole lot more to it than that. And I'm not just the disciple because I'm the idiot.
Yeah, go into some things that you're learning. I'm
Yeah.
interested to see, like, when we can all chime in. But as a young, you've been married for 2 years.
That means
As a
that's
young
lot,
husband,
man.
like, what have you been learning? What are things that you've had to like change? What do you learn?
That's one that I want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I
because
want to hear from them.
there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
Like it's just so different. And we're 2 years in now, so we got a good routine. But like I remember when we first got married, and now we're living together, and like, oh, you don't like cuddling after work, or like. Oh, you go out in the garden.
Get away from me.
Yeah, just
roll
different
over.
stuff.
You go play in the garden
You
for
don't make
3
dinner
hours
every
at the end of the
night?
day. Like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
What
right.
am I gonna do? Or it's Saturday and I'm gonna go hang out with the boys, and she's like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like,
right.
So there's just so many like new things to learn.
Yeah.
But we've gotten a really good routine with that. But then even greater than that, like having the partner that you have fun with and hang out with and everything. But the burden that it can be to be the head of the household, and the one responsible for bringing us both towards Christ. That's a new one.
That's the big thing, man. That's one thing I've really learned is that as the husband, as the father, you set the tone.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, in across all facets of the household, like in how you treat one another, like with patience and with care, and like, you know what, swallow your pride one time, and maybe she's frustrated with you. Maybe you did something wrong. Maybe she's just frustrated and just comes home dealing with something, right? You don't have to lash back out. Like swallow your pride. Like show some patience. Be a peacemaker.
Yeah.
You know, we went through the Beatitudes. Justin Riddle from our church spoke through being a peacemaker. It was awesome, man. It was really cool going through the Beatitudes. That was a really fun sermon series we did on Wednesday nights. But either way, right? Talking about how you set the tone, both like in how you treat one another, and then also like spiritually, man. Like I know for Bree and I, this was, I don't even know how many years ago, right after I finished grad school, and I was working in Charlotte, and we weren't plugged in to our local church at Green Meadows because we were like 2 hours away, and we would go to a church right there locally. It was, you know, on Sundays was basically it, right? But we weren't involved in the community sense that we needed to be. And, you know, like looking back on it, that's on me, man. Like I didn't properly set the tone of leadership of like prioritizing active involvement in the local church. Yeah. And I mean, we suffered because of that. Like, I'm not saying like we were like having this awful hard time, but like there was definitely, I think, a sense of like just frustration, and maybe we weren't always on the same page in some sense because we didn't have the same prioritization of walking with Christ, not just on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. And
you know,
and I think about even going to the Sunday morning thing. When we were in Knoxville, there was we had to find a church.
Yeah.
Found a really good church that taught the Bible, and it was really good. But just going to setting the tone for your week or for whatever it is. Who is the one that's making us not go to church if we're not going to church?
Right.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're both tired. We both did whatever.
Right.
We wake up and it's 5 minutes. We got to get out of the house. And it's like, if we're not going, it's because I said we're not going. And if we are going, it's typically a lot of the times it's like, you know, like the times when we don't want to get up and go to church necessarily. It's like, it is 100% on
as the leader of the household.
Go to church.
Yeah, man.
And you think about the conversations we have on the ride to get some breakfast after church that are just like intimate conversations that bring us together more than any other thing during our week.
Yeah.
Is that right after we leave a sermon that hit us hard? You know, and it's like that is 100% on me to make sure that we're having that opportunity.
And that's important. And I feel like in our, I don't know what you're gonna say.
I'm gonna say you're no longer just responsible for yourself.
Yeah, right.
In that sense, you're responsible for the spiritual growth of your family.
Yeah, right.
And I'll
right,
say,
and the spiritual taking care of your wife and your children.
Right, and it's like you said, it's the leadership position we're in, and I'm talking to you guys. I know. If my Bible's open and I've been reading that week, guess who else's notebook's going to have been getting filled that week? Probably more likely to have some time in the Word.
Right.
And if mine sits in my truck all the week in the glass, like I'm waiting to pull it out for something.
Yeah.
Guess who else is probably sitting at the same place it was when we went to church last week? You know, it's like there is a role that you take on now, and it's like it's really cool to see. It's also it's a challenge to step up to.
Yeah, right. It's humbling, man.
And it's I'm glad you guys, because it's I feel like in our society today, people view that as sexist or man, that's biblical. You know what I'm saying? It's
just how it is.
It's just how it is. And I'm glad, like, don't shy away from that. Like, we are the leaders of our household. Yeah. And it doesn't, I remember Daryl sat me down when we were about to get married. Me and Caroline, I talked to Daryl and Gina, and one of the pieces of advice that Daryl gave me was, man, when you're making a decision, it's your decision for your household, but take into account what your wife says. Because a lot of times the thing that they're saying is probably better than what we're so at the end of the day, like we're saying, we're the leaders. We make it's on us to lead our household and make decisions. But man, I know I've been blessed. I know all of you guys have been blessed with Christian women that can help a lot. Yeah. If
no, it is not a singular. I'm pulling the sled type thing, but
it's biblical that, man, we're supposed to lead our household. And that's something that it is a burden, but it should be. It should be something that we take seriously.
Well, we're called to lead and love our wives like Christ loved the church.
Exactly. Right.
And what did Jesus do? He literally died.
His life.
He gave up his life for the church.
Right.
Yeah.
So
just wait till you get to the point. I know Jacob's getting really close, but like KJ is literally like starting to repeat things that we say.
Oh yeah.
Right. And like literally, and it's just like, it's real eye opening. And we're probably at the stage where it's getting to like real close where, I mean, everything that we do, he's going to start repeating. Right. And so it's just literally this idea of whatever life you're living is going to be reflected in him. Yeah. And so it's just a real, always a testament of how you're living your life, basically. And so, it's been so huge to kind of fill into that role. And obviously I am still learning what that looks like.
That's crazy, man. Like even more so than just what he says, like the man he grows up to be is going to be primarily molded by after the example you give him.
Exactly.
For you guys having kids, man, it must hit you on a whole because you're leading your whole household, not just your wife, man. You're leading your kids in the way that you want them to be when they grow up. So that must hit y'all all different.
Yeah, but the way that I love Sydney, it reflects sometimes the way I love her. Yeah. The way that she loves KJ. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's two different relationships. Like your wife, there's a leadership role, and like I said, if I'm opening this Bible, chances are she's opening hers more.
Right. Yeah.
But she's also my teammate.
Yeah.
And she feeds me just as much as I feed her.
Right.
But this kid thing, it's like, dude, it's on you. You know, like I was talking to my mom not too long ago about just kind of the people that we've grown up to be, and she was saying how she likes the thought that like she had a little bit to do with it. I'm like, Mom, like y'all had, like,
you had a lot.
There was a
the majority of it.
Right.
There is a decision there, but like I'm gonna go like 85-15 or like 90-10. It is a big deal to have that opportunity to create somebody who they're gonna be. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys.
It is, bro.
Yeah, please. Jude's just now starting to crawl. He's like within like 2 days ago. It's not like a full-on crawl. He kind of like drags his legs behind him, but
he was going backwards.
He's up there. Yeah.
He was like scooting himself backwards. He went all the way against the wall.
He's moving.
He's a handful, man.
Do you guys have any other questions, man? Dude, I'm so happy you
this is awesome.
Time to come on this with us, bro. Like, and I know They will be open to it, but when I go back and play this season, I'm sure that they'll be open to having you back on.
Yeah, bro.
Whenever you want, if you're home.
Especially when Bree and I move back to David County, you ain't gonna be but like 10 minutes away.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, we got to get this lift in.
Hey, you ain't kidding, man.
I'm so jealous. You can see behind us. This weight room.
Absolute meat
It's
shack.
legit, dude.
This is awesome. We absolutely
moving into the garage of the new house.
That's right.
You're moving in. Well, I don't know if you want
like a month.
Yeah, a month. Okay.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah.
One thing that was crazy, though, that we didn't talk about at all, just like how good you were in college, which you may not think you were, but I thought you were when I was
an
looking,
absolute
when I was
stud.
looking through the stats, man. Stats don't
KB was
lie.
doing his research. Stats don't lie.
You had over 500 carries. How many times did you fumble the ball?
I don't know. 1, 2.
It was a one finger, bro.
Sick, dude.
One finger.
Which is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Especially that style of running too.
Exactly. Like you're literally like carrying people or at least knocking them over. Like
He's inviting today. Come here. Come
That's the question I wanted.
What?
What NFL running back, either now or like in their most recent years, would you think you kind of modeled yourself after? Not so much like I want to run like him, but like who do you think
Who did I
kind of has a
actually play
similar
like?
style? Yeah.
Y'all have never heard of Mike Allstott, have you?
Wait. Was he
Fullback for the Bucks.
Yeah.
This dude was a monster.
He was psycho.
That's what I wanted to be. He was a nut.
Yeah.
Psycho.
Yeah.
Man, that guy was a beast.
Can I tell my story real quick about middle school football?
Sure.
All right. And
Wait, did y'all play? Yeah, you didn't play against
No,
them.
not with him. But and then anything you want to add at the end, you can add. But and again, we're so thankful you came on. But dude, I went back
That's a
to a
wrap for the
middle
main
school.
session.
I went back to a middle school football game at Ellis. I must have been. I think you were in 7th grade. Okay, because I was coming back to hang out with Heath. But anyways, I go to the game
Or
and
Allie.
or Allie, either way, I don't know. But I go back to the game and I'd heard about you and like we knew each other, but I'd heard about you playing football and I was like, oh, let's go watch the game. All right, because you played linebacker and running back.
Yeah.
Then okay, so this is back-to-back possessions. Okay, first possession is he's on offense, and I remember he ran. It was like a pitch or something towards where we were sitting, and there was a cornerback who I feel bad for.
Poor guy.
But so a lot of times, like
Middle school quarterback.
a big collision is they go head to head full speed. Well, this cornerback, I don't know if he didn't get the memo, but he just kind of stood there. He didn't get the memo. Running. I'm not joking. This dude went 5 yards back, dude. He went flying.
Cade goes like, let me go hit this guy.
Wait, no, the sound
Probably
that
could
it
have
made.
ran past him.
Yeah, you probably could have knocked him.
The sound that it made when you hit that dude, I'm like, okay. I was
Check
like,
that guy.
what? That's when I quit playing football. And then
Concussion
next
protocol.
possession, he's playing middle linebacker and does the same thing to the running back. It's the opposite. But
Oh boy.
dude, we're so thankful you came on.
Yeah.
Anything?
guys.
If
been a
you want to
blast,
say, if
man.
you want to say anything else, you can. If not, man, it's
I appreciate you guys having me on here. This is like I said, I guess I follow all of y'all, but
Yeah.
coming across this, I mean, being able to tune into this, I drive back and forth to Tennessee all the time,
Yeah.
and I listen to this, and I'm fed by this. I mean, this is super encouraging to me. Like I said, to have some normal guys, some athletes that have walked a similar walk that I have, get the chance to listen to you guys and to hear what's going on in your lives. I feel like I've kind of been a little bit of a part of it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that you guys are doing it. So
Yeah.
thank
It's a
y'all for
blast.
letting me be a part of it.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now,
We appreciate you.
on behalf of the R12 podcast, you have an open invitation if you want to come back.
Wait, and do you accept the R12 athlete name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
be an
Can we
R12
title you
athlete?
that?
I am R12.
Because you're gonna really help. We're gonna help. You're gonna help the brand.
Athlean Rise video and you like
R12 athlete. Cade
We
Carney.
appreciate you, bro.
man. It's
We
been a
love you
blast.
guys,
Thank y'all.
Adios, fellas
fellas.
And we're out.
Could be women.
and ladies.
Dude, that's awesome.
I lost my.